I want to begin this video with something very simple and very human. Your emotions are not problems. They're processes. And every process has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And what we realize is that the emotions that we carry, the ones that get stuck in our system, are the ones that never got a chance to finish the cycle. What happened is they got interrupted. They got cut off, and it could be shame from the past, or it could be a shutdown, or just an invalidation that we remembered, or simply just being too overwhelming to feel that emotion when it originally showed up. And that's what happens. Those emotions, we learn that they don't disappear. They settle into the body. They become sensations that we don't always have names for. And we definitely have, nervous system reactions to. So we're moving into a part of this work now where we see emotions as energy in motion, emotion. And Dr. Bradley Nelson, frames it this way: an emotion is a wave of energy that is designed to rise, crest, and then move through. And when that wave is blocked, it could be by fear, by conditioning, by trauma, it doesn't dissolve. It just gets stored in our bodies. Now, I want to translate that into something that you can feel and recognize. Because when you feel that knot in your chest or your stomach just suddenly drops, or when your heart starts racing when nothing logical around you is happening, that's not random. That's not you being too dramatic or being too sensitive. That's emotional energy that just wants one thing. Wants a completed cycle. And this is where emotional literacy becomes incredibly important. Not as a technique to force emotions out, but as a framework to understand what we are feeling and what the body is actually doing. Because the goal of this work isn't to get rid of emotions. The goal is integration. And the reason we do that is because that energy, of those emotions, there's actually wisdom in there behind all of that tension. So let's look at what a trapped emotion actually looks like. And let me give you an example so it can become real. Imagine there's someone who just gets anxious before speaking up in a meeting. And on the surface, it looks like anxiety. But if we slow everything down and trace the sensation into the body, and it could be, buzzing in their chest or a knot in their throat, we can see that it actually isn't about that meeting at all. And maybe, underneath that anxiety is shame. And if we pull that thread, there's a story from childhood where speaking up was mocked. So now you can see someone who's afraid to speak in a meeting has to process that story of being mocked while they're trying to speak in public. And if we pull that thread even further, maybe underneath shame is grief. And all the times they never got to say what they needed to say. And they feel bad for forcing themselves to stay quiet all the time. And maybe underneath that fear is a fear of rejection. And maybe somewhere along the line, the nervous system learned that visibility equals danger. Because look, and that makes sense, because if you're in the center of attention and there's toxic forces all around you, right, you're giving these toxic forces someone to look at and someone to target. So we can actually see that in that example, the meeting itself wasn't the problem. And what's happening in the present is the trigger. And those emotions, all those stacked emotions, they're not overreacting. You know what they're doing is they're remembering. And this is what we learn about what our emotions do. Because it's about learning how and where the body is carrying emotional memories that just didn't get a chance to process. What you're going to realize is they're not memories of events, but they're memories of feelings. And until those feelings are acknowledged and named and nurtured, you know what happens is they stay active. They do what? They ring an alarm bell, ding, ding, ding. And they show up as, overwhelm. Or they might show up as procrastination or shame or shutdown. And it's not because something is wrong with you, but because something in you is trying very, very hard to be heard. Now, I'm going to give you a 3-step process that can help with the process all of these things. And this is where our practice can begin. And number 1, notice. This is the first and most important step. Notice the opposite of repression. Exact opposite. So ask yourself, where do I feel this? Because you're not asking, why do I feel this? You're not asking, how do I stop this? You're just asking this question, where is it? And then be a bit more curious. Is it warm? Is it tight? Is it heavy? Is it buzzing? Is it still, or is it in motion? And what we realize is just by asking that question, our body doesn't lie. It tells us the truth. So after we can locate it, we need to name it. And I want you to realize that the name itself doesn't have to be perfect. We're not looking for the perfect word. Is it sadness, fear, shame, anger, disappointment? Or even, you don't even have to label it that directly. It's just like there's something here. And quite often that's enough. Because naming doesn't mean understanding. Naming means acknowledging. And acknowledging actually opens the door for that emotion. And then step 3, the third thing that we do, is we nurture. This is where the energy begins to move again. We can ask, what does this emotion need? Not how do I get rid of this, or how do I fix this, but what does this part of me need right now? And if you sit with that for a moment, you realize that these emotions, they might just need something like a breath or attention. Maybe just a little bit of reassurance. Maybe it needs you to stay with it and hold it for 20 seconds longer than you usually do. Because this is the heart of integration work. It's like when we have the emotion, plus give it attention, the emotion moves. There's movement. When emotions move, they release their charge. And what you're going to find after they leave, you're going to find wisdom, clarity, maturity, strength, all those things. What you start to realize is the emotion, it no longer owns you. It's actually a form of intelligent design. It's trying to talk to you. And I explain why this works. Because when you notice an emotion, you interrupt the survival pattern. And when you name it, you make it conscious. And when you nurture it, you change its meaning. And here's the key. When the meaning changes, the nervous system rewires. What you're going to realize is that the emotions, they all have a story to tell. And fear might actually become caution. Be careful. Grief might become depth. Anger can become a boundary. Sadness can become, connection. And longing becomes direction. This is why emotions aren't about the discharge. They're actually about evolution, about evolving. Because you're turning an emotion into emotional intelligence. And that intelligence, it leads to what? Like maturity, into insight, into compassion for your younger self that had to store all those emotions for a really long time. So let this land, and I want you to let it land gently. The goal isn't to discharge emotions, it's to integrate them so that their energy becomes wisdom. And this is the path that we're walking. Not by pushing emotions away, but learning to hold them with a wiser mind, a kinder mind, a gentler mind that can say, I see you. You know what, emotion, you make sense. And you know what? I'm here. I'm going to listen. Because this is what ends the cycle. This is what sets the body free. This is what builds, secure attachment for us on the inside. I want you to answer this one question for me. I want you to feel it. What emotion is your body holding on right now? What's it been holding on to for the longest amount of time? And then just notice it, whatever it is. It could be a tug. It could be a sensation. It could be a part, just somewhere inside your body that says, hey, pay attention to me. Be curious. Because that's where this work begins. And that gives us a sense for where your attention needs to go. If you want to know more, or if you want to go deeper into this kind of work, into healing, into deeper recovery, you're free to watch other videos that I've posted, and you're free to comment, or even attend one of my live sessions that I host regularly. And the link for that is in the descriptions. And if you're ready, you can also book a call, and I'll guide you through the entire recovery process. And I do ask that you do one favor for me, because I've looked at the data of these videos, and only 7% of the people that watch these videos are actually subscribed, which means 93% are not subscribed. So if you do find this helpful, or my other videos helpful, then please subscribe to this feed, because it does make a big difference. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.